Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am here with Brandon, Rockstar Rooks of Rockstar Capital, and I will tell you that everything that I have heard about him from many, many different sources screams to his character. And there's very few people in this environment that are raising money, doing deals the right way, that you can actually depend on. All right. And I think that's a big thing because in this environment, so many people are quick to raise money and not return it. All right. So, Brandon, introduce yourself a little bit more than what I did and kind of go into what you do and how you do it.
Okay. Um, well, I'm old, as you can tell. This is actually, it would normally be gray, but if I put pomade in it, then it makes it look like I still have some dark hair. So it's a lie. But man, I came out of the Navy in 1992.
Thank
I
you for
did
your
6 years in the service and 3 tours in the Gulf. I'm a combat Desert Storm Navy veteran. I ran the anti-ship missile defense system, had a top secret clearance, and highly intelligent and uh, 143 IQ. But man, when I got out of the Navy, I was like, I don't ever want to look at electronics again, you know? And I went into selling cars during the day. I sold MCI long distance at night on the phones. I had a mobile disc jockey business, and I've just always been working.
Yep.
And I really fell in love with sales. I mean, every business out there has a sales component. So for all those people that don't embrace that you're in sales, there's your number one mistake. Just embrace it.
Yeah.
You're in sales. If you own a business, you're in sales. If you have sales teams, you're a sales manager, and it's embrace it and just remember to have integrity. Stand by your word. Stand by your product. If it's not something you have in your own home, don't sell it to someone else.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we seem to have gotten away from. Everybody's just looking for a quick, fast buck, do whatever they got to say to make money. And you and I see it a lot in our network. And it just gives everybody else a really bad rap. But anyway, I went into sales. I quickly went into selling in-home water treatment systems. I was ranked as number 3 in the world my very first year out of 38,000 sales reps. I retained a top 10 position for the 5 years I did that up until I went into mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went into mortgages, I sent letters to everyone I sold cars to, MCI long distance, water treatment systems. We had a little tanning salon that we started in our town that my wife, it was her thing to run. And we sent letters to them. And I started making 6 figures a year in the mortgage industry in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
I never made a cold call. I just sent letters out, and that was it. Matter of fact, I haven't made a cold call since 1999. And it's because of delivering top-notch service.
Yep.
It's because I always make sure every client, customer, which becomes my friends, is how I look at it. I never let a call, email, or text go unanswered in the same day.
Yep.
If you're reaching out to somebody because you need them or you have questions or you want service or you want to buy or you want to invest, and you just kind of blow them off for 2-3 days, and guess what? They'll go elsewhere.
Yeah.
So this day and age, everybody has one of these damn things stuck in their hand or, 24/7. Pros and cons, right? You
Yep.
never get away from it. But I'm just grateful to have the clients and investors that I have. They've been with me for a long time. They constantly send me referrals. There's just a handful of groups that I'm a speaker, sponsor, advisor, or deal flow provider to. Getting some good groups, getting some groups of people with integrity, and don't push your product. Just be there, be present, answer questions. When they start to see you around quite a bit, then they're like, hey, this guy's still around. He's not in and out. So what I do, I raise capital with my investors. I've been in the real estate investment arena for over 23 years. And I've kind of morphed into different things. I've been active in several different cycles of real estate. And there's things that I learned. In 2008, it destroyed a lot of us.
Yep.
I was offering mortgages to my clients that were buying these properties all over the country, and they were wanting to do 5% down or no money down and just max out and no doc loans. But every time I worked with the client, when I did mortgages, I said, look, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to charge you 1.5% on the front.
Mm-hmm.
Why are these people doing no broker fees? No this. I'm like, that's true, but they have all these bullshit fees, and then they make their money from the bank by charging the rate up.
Yeah.
So I would charge 1.5, but I would give everybody a bank rate, which meant it was just above par. I didn't take haircuts, but I was beating every lender in the country by like 1% on the rate on average. There would be mortgage brokers from Citibank and Bank of America. They would be calling me like, my bank won't even let me do that. I'm getting my loan through you. So, but I did that. And I also, when I talked to them, I'm like, because this rate is lower, there's no reason to do a 30-year mortgage. Let's look at a 20-year, let's also look at putting a little bit more money down because of what I'm saving you. And when you actually made it make sense, they were in a much better position. They were going to cash flow just like they would have had they tried to go cheap on the front, a long mortgage.
Yeah.
And my clients thanked me for that years later because I did millions in mortgages, and damn near every one of my clients were able to retain their properties. They didn't lose their properties in the 2008 collapse. Now, I got headhunted over into Lake of the Ozarks, and I was selling multi-million-dollar mixed-use projects, condos, townhomes, single-family homes under construction. I had a hedge fund group out of California that was buying properties from me. And in 2007, I had $86 million in projects under contract. And they were going through construction. And when they would be done, I would be the listing agent on all of them. Matter of fact, if anybody knows Lake of the Ozarks, Central Missouri, one of the projects was Majestic Point, which has 4 high-rise buildings. And the biggest one was 13 stories, had a penthouse on top and a helicopter pad. And they were like, by the way, we're only going to need this like 3 weeks out of the year. So you and your wife can have the penthouse. And when we come, you just stay in one of the other units, And I'm like, so I'm all excited, $86 million in projects under contract. And, I was set. And of course, 2008 happened, and those guys had to back out on everything. I lost everything. None of my investors lost money. I had some projects where they had deposits, which I don't want to take too long, but I made sure that every one of them got their deposit back because I'm the one that helped them find the investment.
Yep.
And they're like, you don't have to do that. I says, I do have to do that. Because of me, you invested in this. You put down a deposit and this project's not going through. Yeah, but that's not your fault. I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
It might take a year, a couple of years. I'll give up commissions. I'll find you something. I'll negotiate better deals. But I basically made back every one of their deposit. And guess what? They still invest with me today. So, but what I learned when you're in business, there's always different factors for everything, but never be all in on one thing.
Yeah.
Never be all in one market. Definitely never be all in with like one major buyer or source. A lot of guys in the real estate industry, and there's so many different facets of how you can make money in investment real estate, right? You got these renovators and they work their little market, and when cycles happen, when the inventory gets low, there's just all the different problems that start to arise. They start freaking out. They see their income going down. They didn't put enough aside. And now they have to start getting, let's say, maybe going against the grain of what they would normally do to make sure that they can continue to survive, keep their people working and actually make enough income for themselves. So I think if you all, and God, we hear this forever, just be diversified, right? Be open to trying to figure out how to expand. If you do something well, how can you do it well in the city next to you? Or maybe just across the border? Or is what you have needed in another place? And can you find someone to help you duplicate and scale that? And that's just good business, right? You start to build your business up and you start working in multiple markets. And there's so much to talk about. But, real estate has cycles. And there are times when buying real estate for rental properties makes sense. Right now, not so much. It's prices are up. The rents aren't there in a lot of markets. And of course, it's different everywhere you go across the country. But I stopped selling turnkey renovation rental properties, new construction and renovation properties in 2015 was about the last year I did it.
Mhm.
And I sold 954 properties across the US, multiple different markets. I had builders, I had renovators, selling stuff in Memphis and Indianapolis and Columbus and Florida and North Carolina, South Carolina, Idaho, Kansas City. There were several different markets, but I sold 954 doors. I was a little bit pissed because I actually had a goal. I was doing really well and I had a goal of selling 1,000 doors and I didn't hit it. And that's the only time I haven't hit a goal in as long as I can remember. It still haunts me today. But, when the cash flow, the realistic cash flow dropped below my set parameters for my investors, which I always set a goal of making sure my investors average 15% annualized return every year on their money.
Yep.
And I'm able to deliver that. I deliver it because I'm not greedy. I make a little bit off of a lot of business versus trying to figure out how I can make as much as I can off every single client. How do I squeeze every dollar I can out of this deal? Well, guess what? You made your life so much harder.
Yeah.
People figure that out after a while. Someone comes along that does. Yeah. So, but I stopped selling properties and I started moving more towards the capital raising side. I had a couple strategic partners that I worked with, Kevin Burrell and Lindsay Jarvis. Lindsay Jarvis is actually a New Zealand national, and he came over to the States, and they were some of the new construction projects that I'd pre-sell every one of their projects, their houses, before they ever broke ground. So they're like, how long can you do this? I said, as long as the prices and the cash flow make sense. So we became really bonded. And he's like, with how you sell, he goes, if you can raise capital, we can build more, we could sell more. So they immediately had that mentality of, let's scale, let's go bigger. And it was a great fit. And eventually the prices started to get up to the point where it didn't make sense for me to sell it. But what I saw was that I could raise capital, put it to work in the new construction industry, and get my investors that 15% or better return.
Yep.
So now you don't have tenants, toilets, trash, doors, mortgages, that's some of the headaches that come along with it, stuff like that. But hold on, something was popping up over my screen there. You just lent money and you got returns. And man, that was great. I was like, this is kind of a new thing. So I really got into capital raising in about 2016, 2017. And Kevin and Lindsay were scaling, they were operating in several markets in the Carolinas. They're operating in some of the Southwest Florida markets, before Southwest Florida was really getting hot.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing we did. It was kind of cool what happened. They were building homes and they stumbled into something called land entitlement, or paper lots is what we call it, where we had a piece of ground that we had purchased in Charlotte. And when we purchased it, we were like, yeah, it's a legacy lot. They started to put infrastructure in. We'll build this out. And we grabbed it. And it was a few months later that Lindsay was approached by Tim Samuels of Ryan Homes, which operates under NVR. That's the number 3 builder in the country. And this Tim Samuels reached out and finds this guy. And he goes, hey, we were just about to buy that ground. He goes, well, sorry, I guess you should have shit or get off the pot, And anyway, he's like, well, we'd really like to buy that ground. He goes, well, no, we're going to eventually build it out. We have other projects going right now. And he's like, well, if you ever want to sell, just let us know. We'll make an offer. And a few months later, we're still sitting on it. Just hadn't got there yet. And Tim comes around again. And Tim's the kind of guy, he's kind of like me. He just make friends with anybody. And come on, let's go to lunch. Let me buy you some drinks. And, he's trying to woo Lindsay into selling the ground. And Lindsay's like, no, we're good. But I think it was about 10 or 11 months later we were seeing a shift change, and Lindsay was just sitting there like, I'll tell you what, not promising anything, but you make me an offer. I'll take a look at it. At least if it's not anywhere where we need to be, then we know we're done.
Yep.
Within 24 hours, he brought an offer. And Lindsay looked at it. He was like, in his mind, he's like, holy shit. He's scratching his head, but in his facial expressions, he just kind of looked at Tim and he's like, is that really the best you can do? Tim was like, oh, hell. He goes, I'll be back. He goes, let me go run something at the flagpole. And he comes back within 48 hours with an even bigger offer. And Lindsay looked at it. He's like, we'll make $30,000 a lot, and we don't even have to build it. He's like, if we built this, held it, carrying cost, construction delays, sales, commission, paying a realtor or, the property management company to put somebody in. He looked at it and he says, we'll make $20,000 a door.
Yep.
So he was just kind of scratching his head like, we make more money to just sell the dirt and never actually build it. And that's how we kind of stumbled into this. Here's why. Most of us that are in the investment real estate sector arena, we're small. We build a handful of properties or maybe some small developments. Our build costs are just a lot higher than some of the top 10, top 20 builders in the country. Ryan Homes was building homes for $69 a foot.
Oh, wow.
We were at $100 a foot. So they could pay a lot more for a permitted, shovel-ready lot.
Yeah.
Because their build cost is so low. And that was like, ding, light bulb, okay, let's think about this. So we started asking a lot of questions, and there's really not a whole lot of people out there that do that.
Yeah.
It's usually a farmer gets approached by a realtor. They get convinced to, put it on the market and sell it. Everything that we do is off market. There's some other key factors in importance, but there's a lot of money in dirt, which you might have heard me say this, in and out of dirt, So I raise capital. I put it to work with their operations. Now, Buller River and Estero Developments does build for rent, but all I'm funding or financing with my investors' money is the lots.
Got it.
So we're in and out of the lot. And then on the BRD land and investment, we're funding the ground. And this is a really cool model. We have land asset managers that we've hired away from some of the biggest builders in the country. We bring them onto our team. We quadruple their income, right?
Yep.
And they have to be able to prove that they've been able to bring lots to the builders. But we get them and we give them $1,000 a lot, and they go out and they find the ground like they've always done. They have all the connections, city engineers and the municipalities and the politicians they need to know, and they know how to get this ground ready. And they've already been working with the national builders, which are our end buyers, and they know what they want. So they go find ground, rough engineer it, take it to our national builders. When we have a verbal from 2 or 3 of them,
Yep.
then we go put the ground under contract. We don't buy it. We just put it under contract.
And flip it.
Then we start the process. We got 12 months. We'll start doing all the entitlements and the soft cost and going through it. There's a clause in there that if that ground cannot be permitted, we don't have to close. So we never get stuck with ground we can't sell. It's huge.
Genius.
Banks don't like this. Traditional banks are, you need to buy the ground. You got to go on title. Give us 40% down, and we're going to charge you interest. And how many times have you heard someone get burned on dirt because they got stuck with it and there it sat and nothing happened for 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Yep.
That doesn't happen to us, right? So anyway, it's a unique model. We ask a lot of questions. Builders ask a lot of questions like, why isn't anybody doing this? And when we tell people what we're doing, we're like, we're going to pay you 10% annual preferred. You start earning quarterly distributions every quarter. You get 60% profit sharing, which now we've reached stabilization. That means all of our investors this year are going to make about 15, 16% on their money. Next year, it should be 17, 18. And then as I have more investors fill that funnel, I change my profit sharing. I lower it. I lower my fees, I lower my profit sharing because I have a goal of getting all of my investors to a 20% average annual return on their investment. And I'll tell you why. Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, has paid out an average annual 19.3% since 1965. And I'm very goal oriented.
Yep.
If you're a business owner and you don't have goals and you don't write those goals down and you don't keep a task list that you can go through at the end of the day and knock out those tasks and then rewrite that list, I'm telling you right now, everybody's like, well, why don't you do it in an app? Why don't you put it in a folder? Why don't you put it in your phone? It's just because I can't see it. Yep. This I see on my desk every day. I can glance through it. Every time I have to rewrite it, redo it. That's how I own 11 companies. I get shit done. I get more done from 5 to 9, sometimes 4 to 9 than most do in an entire day. And it's because of that. But it's really interesting what we do. And I get so excited about it because I know I've set that goal of beating Berkshire Hathaway. If I could beat Berkshire Hathaway in performance, investors aren't going anywhere, right? Nope. So now the next goal is how Rockstar Capital becomes one of the biggest private money lenders in the country to builders for the raw ground, shovel-ready and permitted ground that they need. And BRD Land, some very exciting things happening right now. They just hired division president of the Southeast from one of the top 5 builders in the country. The guy, he's been talking to us for a while, and he's like, you guys are sitting on a gold mine. You're rewriting history and how builders buy ground across the country. I got to be a part of that. And we get to introduce him next week. So we'll introduce him at the 1st of August. I can't say anything yet, but I'm telling you, he's walking away from a multi-million-dollar salary and stock options. And he's like, you guys are going to $1 billion a year in revenue real fast. And we actually have a goal of getting to the point of selling 100,000 lots a year across the country to our national builders, which we sell to 13 of the top 25 right now. By the way, the top 10 builders in the country build 35% of all the single family and multifamily residential homes in the country. A lot of people don't know that. But here's why we feel so good. It's because of what we've done. I've got investors that trust me. Yep. Go to my website, read the testimonials. And I've had young people say, oh, anybody can put whatever testimonial they want up there. I'm like, read all of them. I think there's like 30 or 40 or 50 of them. Pick 3 names at random and I'll put you in touch with them. And they're like, oh, calling me out, calling my bluff. Yeah. Yeah. And, have integrity, do right by your people, and your business becomes easier. If you're always looking out for your client, your investor, your buyer, if you're answering every call, email, or text, you're doing what you know is ethical and keeping integrity. And sometimes things go wrong. Jump in there and get it fixed, man. Don't quit until it's done. Don't shy away from it. Don't avoid the phone call. Jump in. Knock on wood. I have never had an investor lose any of their money yet. I'm going to knock again.
Yep.
Doesn't mean we didn't have shit happen. And I had to dive in and get it fixed. I usually got it recovered. Maybe we didn't make profit, but I got their principal back plus a little interest. And I had a handful of deals where I had to write a check.
Yeah.
But I did. They're like, you don't have to do that. I'm like, yeah, I do. I helped you invest in that. That was your hard-earned money. Yep. I'm not going to see you lose your money. And like, but you really don't have. Missy is my sister-in-law, and she works for her. She runs the back office administration. And she constantly says, she goes, do you know how rich you could be if you stop making it right by everybody? She goes, but I love that integrity. And she goes, that's why I love working for our company. Yep. And she's amazing, by the way. So, and you've heard that in our network. Do the right thing, man. You could be a fly-by-night. Everybody just wants to get rich quick.
I don't think you can. No. I don't think you can be fly-by-night because the information age is here, and people find out real quick, especially in some of these groups, right? And I think everything that you are doing is just old school business principles that, hey, do right by everybody, value your relationships over the money, and those relationships will bring you more money than you could have dreamed. And so many people, to your point, want to take shortcuts or just do the bare minimums. But when you overproduce, overdeliver in everything you do, you really don't have to market, because that is the best marketing that you can do.
Yeah.
And that's, not many people are built like that. And that's why I wanted to have you on here, because I've never heard one complaint, one bad thing said about you. And that is impossible to find when you are raising money and investing other people's money. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. I'm running a network that there's a lot of other syndicators, that open up these funds and do these things, and they have all these visions of grandeur, but they're like, it's another multifamily real estate. It's another value add real estate. It's another, and I'm just like, man, you got to diversify. You got to do a little bit of different stuff. But, and I hear time and time again, well, we didn't get distributions. They're on hold. They can't pay that return. You know what? I've never missed a quarterly distribution, and we have never paid less than exactly what's in our paperwork and our PPMs. And actually, I'm merging all of my Reg D, 506B, and 506C funds right now into a Reg A Tier 2 fund offering. Right. My attorney reminded me, you have to say offering now. You can't say fund. It's different. And there's more compliance. I got to send up my numbers and my profits and loss, my cash back on my balance sheets every 6 months to SEC and state. I have to do a third-party CPA audit every year. And I start talking in my network, right? Best Ever Conference, Family Office Club, all these other syndicators. Like, oh man, why would you do that? And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you? And well, more compliance and the SEC. And I'm like, are you afraid of compliance? Are you not good with your numbers? It doesn't scare me.
Yep.
So that's what's kind of interesting, is that always tells me a little bit of something about it too, right? Mm-hmm. And I allow accredited and non-accredited investors. I have more accredited than non-accredited, but I enjoy helping the guy that only has, there's been times I've helped people invest as little as $5,000, and that was a lot of money for them. And I treat them the same as if they have 50,000. I treat them the same as if they're investing 100,000 or 500,000. You got to start somewhere, right? Yep. And right now, our fund is 10,000 minimum, but because I went Reg A, I don't have to have that prior relationship with a non-accredited investor. And most of my non-accredited investors have, because I helped them buy a lot, or I helped them buy a property, or they're a referral, or they're a family member of one of our accredited investors. And I grew up poor. I mean, poor dude. Like, we collected wild berries and hunted for crawdads and mushrooms if we wanted jam and jelly and stuff, And I remember my mom telling us, you could only use 4 squares of toilet paper to wipe your ass. And I'm like, what? 4 squares of toilet paper? Yeah. I'll tell you what, right now, I use handfuls of that Charmin. 3 or 4 times. I don't care. But, it's, you got to do what other people won't. Yep. And we just don't have enough of that these days. But it's our own damn fault. We allow participation trophies, right? We allow mediocrity. We don't inspire anybody to want to have more. Status quo and getting by is just fine for so many. And it's just, I grew up poor, man. If I wanted some Nikes, I had to go earn money to buy Nikes. I ended up selling out of a catalog door to door when I was like 9 years old, so I could earn like a tent or a raft or a bicycle, And then I'd double driveways, mow lawns, pick up sticks. I would do anything. I'd go to people's house and say, is there anything I can do around the house or around the property? And I've just always worked. Matter of fact, I don't know what to do with myself if I'm not working. I'm so grateful that I have a wife that understands that. I do work from home, by the way, which is good. But she knows what we're building. We're building an empire. We're building a business that right now my son works for us. Both of my sister-in-laws work for us. and we're expanding and growing, and I'll be able to bring more of my two daughters in.
Yeah.
And, I have some other sister-in-laws and brother-in-laws that they're not happy where they are. And, we're looking to build a family type business. And to me, man, we're in a group. Everybody shows off their Lambos and McLarens and the high dollar watches, and that's great. But man, I'm 55 years old. I don't need that crap. I got the house I'm going to be in the rest of my life.
Yep.
I don't want to crawl into a Lambo. You know how hard it is to get out of those things when you're, the older you get. And it's just not me. I got a big Ram truck.
Yep.
Ram truck. And my wife has a Jeep Wrangler. And I did order a Dodge Challenger, Hellcat, red eye, jailbreak, wide body, high output, last call. But you know what? It's the only time I've ever paid over $100,000 for a vehicle. And it's going to sit in the garage, and then they're going to get driven a whole lot. That's kind of like Meekum Auto Auction in 25 years, right? For $500,000. So, bought it as an investment. And
I'm actually doing the same thing. It's funny you said that.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, there's so much to talk about, but again, you just mentioned it. Go back to old school.
Yep.
Don't worry about all the latest apps, and this technology, and find what you can to simplify your life and your business a little bit. Quit reading 80, 90 books and doing nothing. I've read 2 books. 2. Think and Grow Rich. Everybody's read that one, probably. And I read it while I was in the Navy. And then I also read Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins.
Yep.
And I've just always had that mentality. If I can achieve whatever I set my mind to. I have a GED, went in the Navy, grew up poor. I now have over $70 million in assets under management. I've done over $1.25 billion in transactions with my investors since, mid 2000s. And we just did a $20 million cap raise, $20 million in 9 days.
Yeah. Talk to us about that. That's insanely impressive.
160 investors. So 9 days, 160 investors. But you know why we raised so much money so fast? Because they trust me. I've never let an investor down. I did get a lot of new investors this time, which was exciting. So the deal is phenomenal, and I'll tell you what it is. But when you hear it, you'll be like, anybody that's listening to this, you're like, that sounds good to be true. Yep. You know what? Sometimes some things are just that good.
Yep.
And it's because we have that quick mentality of that sounds too good to be true. Go run it for the hills. You miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yep.
Not all the time. Good to be cautious. Do some due diligence, right? Anyway, so this land entitlement business is blowing up. For the last 5 years, we've been setting the model, testing it, building an inventory, hiring the right people. And now it's to the point that we can duplicate it and scale it to every market that our national builders are in, right? So it's kind of like we're Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs or, what's the Amazon guy?
Bezos. Jeff
Bezos. Yeah, I, by the way, don't watch a whole lot of YouTube stuff and research other people. I'll just get in and do the damn work. But anyway, it's kind of like we're in that stage before they were ever known.
Yep.
And we gave our investors an opportunity to invest in the company. So we did a net operating income or profit share percentage sale. We needed to raise 20 million because it takes about 2.5 to 3.5 to open a new market. So we go out and get some ground. And bringing on this new CEO that everybody in the building industry knows. He knows everybody. Kind of like we went into the Shark Tank and we got Barbara Corcoran and Mark Cuban, both, right?
Oh, nice.
And so that's kind of what we did it. So pretty cool. You invest, you get 14% annualized return in quarterly distributions on your investment in year one. Let's say you put $100,000 in. You get 14%. That's $14,000. And at the end of year one, we pay back 30% of 100K. So you get a $30,000 bonus check. And we have 5.25% of the shares of the net operating income, which they'll probably do $100 million in net operating income in the next 12 months.
Mhm.
That pays like another $40,000 a year. And you make interest, you get a portion of your principal investment back, and you make profit sharing all in the same year. Then at the end of year 2 or end of year 1, now you have 70,000 principal invested. You get 14% on that, so a little less interest. But at the end of year 2, you get your $70,000 principal investment back. You still make that profit share. You actually make almost all your money back in year 1. You about double your money by year 2. You get all that principal back, and you're still holding $100,000 of participation in the offering, and we hold those shares for as long as we want. So we just get checks year after year after year because we helped Amazon, Apple, Elon, Tesla go public, so to speak. And whenever someone tells me that sounds too good to be true, and I had a few, I'm like, yeah, but imagine you were the guy that invested in Bitcoin when it was $100, or Amazon when all they sold was books and he was still kind of working out of his garage,
Yep.
Think about had you bought some shares back then. So I don't
Is
like
that
the
deal
stock
still
market.
available?
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? I don't like investing in stocks, and because one, you never know who's going to go big. There's too many key players up there that know how to manipulate stuff. The people that really win usually is the stockbrokers, and you know damn well the government's got their hands on everything. Matter of fact, everybody invests in 401ks. If you didn't know this, after the stock market crash in 1929, the government created 401ks to get people to invest in the stock market again. So, and then how well does that work out for you, right? So be open to alternative investments. Don't always immediately, sounds too good to be true. Just do your homework, do your due diligence. We've got a track record. We have almost $700 million of ground in our pipeline. That right there alone is about $350 million of net operating income. And all the ground we have will transpire within the next 2 years. And we're growing. And there's a lot of profit in it. And we have a track record. And, I'm going full compliance. Reg A, I can raise up to $75 million a year with a Reg A Tier 2 fund offering. And we did that, started moving and doing this. I shrunk expenses and I improved profits and return to the investors. And we did this because we knew where we were going. We had a business plan. We've been hitting those targets and those goals. And I need to continue to, it's a capital hungry business. I could raise $75 million a year and put every ounce of that to work. And it just means we're just opening more markets.
Yep. Still not making
But
sense.
we already know our builders. They've already said, we want that ground. And some people don't know this. I don't talk about it a lot, but sometimes those builders like D.R. Horton and Ryan Holmes and Meritage Anatomy and Stanley Martin, they bring us ground. They're like, hey, we already did our homework. We want that piece of ground. You guys go get it. We're like, okay. Because we keep it off their balance sheets, which is how they keep their shares more valuable and they have better return. They don't have to buy the ground. In the world of what we do, usually if you want to build a project, you gotta buy the ground. Go on title, put 40% down, and it hurts your bottom line. Yep. So if we can carry that, we don't have to buy it, not until we get to the end of the 12 months. And usually we're just doing a sophisticated flip. We control the ground, immediately make it worth more money, get it fully permitted, shovel ready. And if we can get that done in 12 months, we just flip it right to our builder. And it may have been a $5 million piece of ground, but we only have $700,000 in it.
Yep.
Right? Which is why I can pay out 15, 17, 18, 20% returns to our investors. People are like, wow, I pay that much. Nobody else can do that. I'm like, well, because nobody else does what we do.
That's what I want to highlight, right? You found a business within a business within a business. Okay. And then after you found it, you tested it, and then you integrated other processes and parts of that business into it, which allowed you to have multiple transactions within one type of investment, right? And you're just connecting everybody. So you completely, I don't want to say exploit it, okay, because that has a negative connotation, but you found a way to take advantage of a need within a very, very small market that no one else is doing, which gave you a blue ocean strategy.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And you know what? What's funny about it is it took a guy from New Zealand to come over to the States. And that's usually how it works.
Yeah.
We get complacent, lazy, and we don't realize that we live in as bad as it is here. And yeah, I bitch and moan about a lot of crap that's going on in the US, but it is still the greatest country in the world with the greatest opportunity. And he asked a lot of questions. And I maybe call it just blissful ignorance or whatever. I just said, whatever I decide I'm going to achieve, I'm going to achieve. I'm going to set goals. I'm going to find a way to make it happen. I never give up. And Kevin, a workhorse in his field. And sure, we've had hiccups, but it's never once affected our investors. Not once.
Yep.
And that's what's the most important. And,
Can
there's sometimes that we didn't make as much as we wanted to make, but that's okay. We didn't lose money. So, yeah,
give me an
very
example.
niche.
Sorry.
What was that?
I said, give me an example of something that may not have went right. Right. So,
okay.
Transaction,
Yeah.
And then how you handled that.
You bet. I'll tell you the biggest one. The biggest one that's like, holy crap. First, I'll tell you this. It's always in the renovation market, in the renovation sector. Because new construction, you know what's going to happen all the way through, right?
Yep.
You got all your, I'm sure things happen like COVID and hurricanes and delays and things like that, but and you know that the market continued. Anyway, I don't get too far off that. So here's one that went bad. In 2017, when I was raising capital for Kevin and Lindsay in their projects, I also had a guy that I worked with, and I'm not going to say the name, not because it's anything bad. Actually, he's a hero, and I'll explain that in a minute. But I had been working with him for 8 years, and he did renovations and turnkey rentals down in Southwest Florida, around like Fort Myers, Cape Coral, that area.
Yep.
Never had an issue. He knows what he was doing. He was good at what he was doing. And I was let go by someone that I was like a silent partner with, that I helped build his company and automate it and bring in a lot of investors, and went to Inc. 5,000 in 3 years and just sold more properties than anybody. But sometimes greed steps in, and people, they try to figure out how maybe I can squeeze something out of this and make a little more. Anyway, so he let me go. So it was in 2017 that I kind of morphed over, and that by the way didn't end up well for him. But 2017, Dave says, if you can raise capital for these guys, can you raise capital for me? And we'll go buy the properties. Your investors will put the down payment down. I'll carry the financing and get the renovation budget out of the lender. Mm-hmm. And we'll start renovating and doing turnkey homes. And this is 2017. It's still good. It's still a good market. It's still cash flow. And I raised about $3.5 million during 2017. And we had about 54 renovation properties and picked up some multifamily properties. And I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 18. Hurricane Irma hit. And it wasn't a bad hurricane there, but what it did is it was bad in other places. So it took workers away from. It created delays. You still had to have insurance adjusters, and it was like a snowball effect. Some of my investors, we got the houses done. They made their 25, 30%, but it started piling up, and all of a sudden there's notes and loans. And long story short, it went totally bust. But Dave, I talked with him, and we knew he had another stream of business that was doing well, and we knew things would come back. And we renegotiated every contract with the investors. I had a 10% participation. I was going to make my money when the deal's closed. That's just how I work. And I said, I'm taking myself out of the equation right off the bat. And we renegotiated, and someone put maybe 25,000 down or 50,000 down or something like that. And we added 4% to how much they put down. Then Dave rewrote every contract to do a 9% interest only payment for 2 years until he could pay off the note.
Yep.
And that was $3.5 million. And he paid off every single one of them. Now, my investors only made an average of 9% a year on their money, which is still great.
Yep.
But that's when you have integrity with the people you work with. But it was also a testament to he knew that he had to make it right with my clients, because eventually we get it all taken care of, we could start again. And I told him, I says, as soon as they're all fine, we have a couple multifamily properties. They were the last ones kind of hanging on that they're working on. But anyway, we start again. I says, let's just not do 54 properties all at once. Let's try 2 or 3. So that's a case where, man, a lot of sleepless nights. I actually ended up having a heart attack about 4 years ago. That much stress, no sleep. And then, of course, I built 3 restaurants for my daughter and my son-in-law. And we opened the last one, and COVID happened. So the Florida deal, COVID.
Yeah.
If you're in the restaurant industry, get out. Good God. They've ruined restaurants forever. Unless you have you just sell fast food, Chick-fil-A or some crap like that.
But let me ask you, for the average person looking to invest any discretionary income they have, what are some questions that you would tell them that they should ask if you were in that position to wherever they are planning to invest their funds?
It's I hear that a lot in a lot of different people that do podcasts and talk to the group. It's not necessarily the questions you should ask. What you should really do is do your homework on them, right? If you see an opportunity, great. Show me your past 2 years track record, right? Do your due diligence on the person that's bringing you an investment opportunity. Real estate always outperforms just about anything else. We know that, but you can get into some bad real estate deals. And I would say your better bet is looking for syndicators or fund operators, because now and sometimes the return may not be as attractive, but it's not all you, right? If you go all in and you fund a fix and flip, and I've heard the horror stories. Well, my friend says he's going to flip this house and we're going to make all this money, and then it doesn't happen. It's not that easy to just fix and flip a home. You got to have some experience and knowledge, and you got, there's so many things that you can run into that you have no idea.
Or market timing.
Market cycles, interest rates. There's a lot of things that can happen. So if you're an investor, a limited partner, a K1 partner in a syndication or fund, well, then the risks is spread out. And don't put all of your money in one. And I have so many investors like, Rockstar, you always get the best returns. I put all my money with you. I'm like, no. I appreciate that, but I've got some friends I trust.
Yep.
Let's help you invest some over there. And there are other syndicators that are like oil, gas, and energy. One of the guys I know runs an ATM fund that's a very good fund, believe it or not. It's great returns. Self-storage funds. I like those. And there's a time and place for multifamily. I'm not a fan of value add Class C, low income housing, Section 8. I'm just not a fan. And everybody has their niche, right? And some people made a lot of money on it, but it's just not my thing. I've always stayed in the space of something 20 years old or newer, or new construction, and rents that are up over $1,000. You just tend to get a different class of tenant. And when people have to pay their own rent, it means a little bit more to them than the people that just get handed a place.
Yep.
And they get a voucher, right? I'm sure this will come out and somebody's like, Rockstar's a kook. Man, there's something crushing it in this. I'm like, and maybe you have. And kudos to you. I don't have the stomach for it. So when We had one that we did. One of the guys I had worked with, a renovation property downtown Kansas City. Walked in to check on the property, and there's teeth marks in the corner of the drywall. Big chunks taken out of it. And he's like, what happened here? Well, my son, he likes to eat the walls and eat the chalk and eat the drywall. And he's like, go get you a piece of drywall. You just hand it to him. Quit eating my walls. So you hear some pretty funny stuff out there, right?
Oh, yeah.
But, questions you want to ask, one, can you afford it? If you were to lose it all, would it hurt you? That's probably a key thing. And understand that as long as you do your homework and ask around, there's probably friends of yours that invest in things that they're just too afraid to. You know how it is? It gets with people. They're like, I don't want to say anything to my friend, but they're happy with their investments, but yet they won't talk about it. And because they don't want to be what if, and we just all have that fear factor. But just do your homework or your due diligence. You can ask for balance sheets and profit and loss. You can ask them if they're a syndicator. Do they ever do a third-party audit? Do they ever have a due diligence report done on them? You don't necessarily have to have those things. It's something I'll have to have with the Reg A every year, and I'm fine with that. But it's because we're getting ready to really blow up and go after a lot more capital. And does it feel right? Invest in things that you're comfortable with. If you're going to invest in something you're not comfortable with, make sure you just dip the toe in the water. It's a slow start. I would say diversify a little bit. It's always good to have a little gold and silver in the safe at home.
Yep.
It's always good to keep a little cash at home. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to keep a lot of cash because it could be earning money. And I agree, right? But you know what? You should have some cash. And you should maybe have some things like if you're doing a last call, that's an investment. And I have a closet over here that's called my Patriot closet. These are things that I could always sell for more than I paid for, right?
Yep.
And just try to stay away from people that are making money on your money and it costs you. I'm not a big fan of a lot of wealth managers or stockbrokers because they'll always make their money even when you don't. And I don't charge Rockstar investors any fees at all.
That's crazy.
Everything I make comes from the money we earn when we put it to work. And my investors get the bigger part of it.
Yep.
And I get the smaller part of it. It's not to say I'm not compensated well, but you know what? When you can deliver 15% annual returns to your investors year after year after year after year, you deserve to be compensated a little bit.
Absolutely.
And we have audited financials to show that, right? We paid out 16.5% in 2020.
Yeah.
No, 2021 for investors. Yeah. 16.5% in the year after COVID.
Yeah.
So
I guess my question, Brandon, just because I want to make sure that people can find you, invest with you, ask you these questions themselves. Someone's watching. What is the best way to get a hold of you? What is the best way to connect with you, do business with you? How do you prefer people reach out?
I'll give you all my contact info. I'm not afraid of that.
This is live. Okay. So
okay, yeah.
I would definitely
I'll give you my contact info.
Limit
I'll set a little precedent. Yeah, I'll set a little precedent.
There you go.
So I get blasted nonstop. I'm typically at my desk no later than 5 a.m. every morning. Sometimes it's at 4, sometimes it's at 3 because my brain is just spinning. If I wake up, I'm just like, I'm just going down the stairs to the office. But so my email address is the best way to reach me because I manage everything from my email. If I have a task or request in my inbox, it gets handled. And when I handle it, I can delete it or I can save it to a folder if I know that it's now on the other person to respond. And that's how I manage my inbox. And I never let myself get more than 50 in my inbox. It's just OCD, call it what it is. I make sure and people are like, how do you do so much? You have 11 companies. How do you do it? I'm like, from my email. But my email address is Brandon with an O, if you see the name on the thing here, at rockstarcapitalfund.com. Email me. My cell number is 913. You don't want me to put that on there?
I probably wouldn't.
You sure? Because you go live a lot of places?
Yes.
I'll tell you what. You email me, you're going to get my cell number anyway, right? Yeah, it's in my signature. You can also go to our website at rockstarcapitalfund.com. And once we're communicating, you can text me. But don't text me tasks or requests or business stuff. Maybe just say, hey, can you give me a call? Because I can't track stuff. I get hundreds of texts a day. And it's nothing more than once. Mitch said, hold on. If you email me, boom, it's live. I can manage it and I can handle it. And I'm going to have Post-it notes everywhere. I actually just kind of cleaned up from Post-it notes. Usually that's what happens. I'm in the middle of something. Oh, yeah, gotcha. But please reach out and read the testimonials on our website. Read the bios on our website. Click through some of the pages and see a little bit about what we do. What we do is different. It's not normal. It's a very niche space, but like I said, it's so profitable. And there's more profit in the dirt than in any other stage of the game in new construction or buildings. And there's just a lot less risk. There's not much you can do to screw up dirt. We can have a hurricane and it'll come back. It might pause things for a little bit, but it didn't destroy any property. It didn't tear down walls. We can have tornadoes and you just clear the ground. That's what I love about it. Everybody's trying to use the recession-proof word. Yeah. Boy, they love that, right? If they're offering opportunities, it's recession-proof. And I'm like, we kind of are, because you can't do anything without dirt. You can't build a single thing without it. Every builder has to have it. And the stuff we grab is not way out in the boonies. It's not swampland. It's not, it's buildable. We don't even put it under contract unless we know we can build it. And then we can build it soon. We're not looking at something 10 years down the road. We don't want something that's going to take 10 years. So anyway, that's how you get a hold of us. You see my name on there, Brandon at Rockstar Capital Fund, website, rockstarcapitalfund.com. And we're easy to reach. And I'm traveling the next 2 weeks, but also my son, Dylan, Dylan, at Rockstar Capital Fund. You can reach out to him. He's our investor relations director. And plus there's ways to get us when you go to the website. But man, we would love to talk to you. Start small, dip your toe in the water, test us out, see what you think. When we perform, then you can slowly do more and let it be a part of your portfolio. And if you've got quite a bit of money to invest, I've got a lot of really good friends that I trust that have some really great syndications and operations that I'm 100% confident in leading you to them. And you should diversify. And it's a business sector. Guys, just if you want more, you got to do more. You're not going to make yourselves, you're not going to go to the next level unless you put in the extra effort. Nothing's easy. If it was, everybody would do it. We'd have too much competition and we would never have this opportunity to become successful. That's how I'm grateful for those that just don't have the desire, the drive, determination, dedication, and discipline to actually be an entrepreneur and build a business. I don't mean that in a mean way, but I am grateful. Because like I said, if we were all entrepreneurs, we'd all be fighting for the same customers.
Absolutely. So. Well, I want you, as soon as we get off, to send me your package. Send me the investor deck, because I'm going to invest with you. Been meaning to do it for a while. And I can't thank you enough for coming on and dropping such a detailed description of what you're doing, because that is unbelievable. And I think that if people look at some of the mechanics that you uncovered and put together, they will find that in their industry, if you think outside the box, there may be an opportunity to translate what you've done in real estate to what they are doing in their industry. People need to look for that blue ocean. And if you guys take away anything, take away that, and you have a place to now safely invest. So, Brandon, thank you so much, man, for coming on
Yeah.
and crushing it.
Thanks for having me, and I'm sure I'll see you soon.